Okay, if I gave you an offer of a fat loss plan, option A was to just reduce your caloric intake every day by, say, maybe 500 calories a day. The other option would be to just eat normally for 6 days a week and do a 24-hour fast, a complete fast on the 7th day. And your goal was to maximize fat loss, also to keep your energy high. And at the same time, you want to be lifting and training. You're trying to build muscle. You do not want your body to catabolize its own muscle mass. Which option would you choose? I actually asked this very question of my followers on email the other day, and just going to quickly detail my answer. Most of you, I don't know about most of you, I think there was more than didn't chose the one-day fasting option B. I didn't count them, but I would say maybe at least 60-40 was choosing the fasting option. There were a few people that chose, that it was a trick question, that either one would work, because in fact, both methods were eating the same amount of calories. I think the thing I laid out was you would have both been eating 21,000 calories a week if you followed either one. So you make sense. It's kind of logical to say, yeah, you know what, probably nothing different would happen. You could do either one. But in fact, that is not what happens, because fat loss is not really just a math problem. One thing I want to be clear on, though, because this gets confused quite a bit. The total calories that you consume actually does matter. In the long run, you have to eat fewer calories than you have to eat fewer than you're burning to lose weight. So, for example, if you just took the fasting protocol, fasted 1 day a week, but on the other days you were so hungry you were eating more calories than normal, you're not going to lose weight. So it's how you go about it that actually matters. It's how you reduce the number of calories that you're eating that actually matters. So what happens is, in the first case, when you just reduce your daily calorie input, you're forcing yourself to get by on fewer calories than you want. So you're going to be hungry a little bit, but you're still eating food. You're still producing glucose, blood sugar in your blood with the insulin response, and you sort of have that whole mechanism going on that's kind of problematic when you always have insulin flowing around your system. So you're not really losing fat that quickly, although you'll lose it just like they do on The Biggest Loser. I mean, this is the approach they take on The Biggest Loser, right? Cut your calories and then train hard. These guys lose a lot of weight. Some of them hundreds of pounds. Of course, they're starting at 400 pounds, but the reason you never see a best of the Biggest Loser contest or like a reunion of The Biggest Losers is because all these guys gain the weight back. It all comes back. So this method of just forcing your calories low over time only works in the short term, and pretty much everyone knows that. That's why diets don't work. But and what happens is, in that case, really the main thing that happens is your body, your brain, basically, that runs the show. At the end of the day, your subconscious brain is basically running the show, and it just starts to detect, something's going on here. We're low on calories. My guy is having trouble finding food. So it starts to adjust what it actually is doing. It starts to say, look, I'm going to shut down some of the bodily functions. I'm not going to spend energy over here. I'm going to conserve energy. I'm going to keep the main things going. I got to keep the brain going, the heart going, the liver, the kidneys. I'll keep all the organs going, but I'm going to stop maybe doing cell regeneration. I'm going to stop fighting viruses so hard. I'm going to actually cut back on circulation to the extremities of the body. That's why people, when they're dieting, quite often feel cold, especially in their hands and feet. This is your body saying, look, I'm dealing with this. I'm cutting back on sort of non-essential tasks. So what it does is it's actually reducing your metabolism. So your daily need is no longer as great as it was when you started. So that's when you hit those plateaus and you stop losing weight. On the other side, on the fasting side, the beauty of the fasting side is you don't ever get any sort of that starvation mode responses coming in, because you're basically eating normally, and then every once in a while, no food comes in, and your body just actually deals with, actually kind of likes it, because what happened is your blood sugar crashes really low on that day when you're not eating because nothing's coming in. Your insulin follows that down, so you get a really low fasting insulin, and your body gets very efficient at going in and grabbing the stored fat and using that for the excess energy that it needs. The other beauty of fasting that you don't get in the diet approach is a couple of other things happen, and it's like these hormonal responses. One is you start secreting more adrenaline and cortisol and growth hormone. And this is the reason why you actually don't feel tired and sluggish and groggy when you're on the fast. You actually feel quite alert. And it's also the reason why you don't metabolize your muscle tissues, because the growth hormone comes out to prevent that. And this is all, sort of an evolutionary adaptation to prevent you from dying, because what happens, if you go back at 10,000 years, a million years, when we were developing our genetic code, having days without food was quite common. So what the body developed this response to make sure that we actually stayed strong. It wouldn't have done any good for us to just, if you had a day without food, to say if you got weaker and you started catabolizing your muscle and then you had no energy. I mean, the likelihood of getting fed the next day would have been lower, and the next day would have been even lower. You wouldn't have made it through the first winter. So in fact, we have these adaptations that are very beneficial to keeping your energy high, keeping your muscle mass intact. And also there's a lot of other sort of benefits for, kind of anti-aging and longevity concerns. So the fasting method is the better option, but it doesn't mean I'm telling you to go out and start fasting. I mean, that's a discussion for another day, because it's hard to do. I mean, if you try to force yourself into a fasted period when your body's used to eating a lot of, glucose spiking food, which normally is what most people are eating. If you're on sort of this glucose spike and crash kind of diet, which is the standard American diet, it's very hard to go from that to I'm going to fast, where I'm not going to eat anything for 24 hours. You'll be miserable. So it's better off. You'd be better off if you do some preparation and actually starting to change your diet to a different. Eating different foods and get off that, burning sugar and starch as your primary fuel, and become fat adapted first. Become, where you're very efficient at burning stored body fat to begin with, and then going into, a fasting protocol and stuff is gonna, you're gonna get all the advantages of it without really feeling like you're about to slit your wrists. So anyway, that's my answer.